Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 14. I've tried to record this one 4 times. The last time it actually even posted and then it got deleted. Someone doesn't want me telling this story. It's really long, so I'm going to talk really fast. I'm going to skip some of the details that are not really that necessary, so it'll be on the screen. You could look at it. When I was younger, my best friend used to live in an apartment complex. My mom was best friends with her mom growing up to the point that we referred to her as our aunt and my best friend as our cousin. I went to her house practically every weekend, the entire summer, all holiday breaks. We were inseparable. Spent most of our time outside playing around the complex. We had our little gang of friends and we would hang out in this one park area. There was always this older man who would sit out on his back porch adjacent to the park. The porches in this complex were open and more just like a concrete slab with a sliding glass door attached to the apartment. He'd laugh at us as we played, help us come up with ideas to defeat our vampires, and eventually we would sit on his porch and talk with him. His name was Mr. Doug and he quickly became a good friend. He had a big black mustache, was blind, and had a fake eye that he would sometimes take out and show us. Mr. Doug would also allow the neighborhood kiddos to go into his apartment and get 2 cookies and 1 soft drink. I remember very clearly the layout of his apartment and his porch. His porch had many gorgeous flowers as he enjoyed gardening, and the inside of his apartment had a brown couch and a huge painting of a ship in a storm on the wall. No TV. The layout was very open, hardly any furniture except he would have boxes of cookies and sodas to the side for easy access. As a child, I always assumed the inside of his apartment was so empty due to him being blind and needing to get around easier. He never went inside with us, we never explored any other rooms, it was always very innocent and we respected his boundaries and his home. We would sit on the porch for hours and he would tell us stories. Obviously, when telling our parents about Mr. Doug, they wanted to meet him before we continued hanging out with him. They had never heard or seen of him around the complex. The parents met him, approved, and said we could continue talking to him on the porch. We hung out with Mr. Doug often. He would tell us stories of his childhood, his late wife, etc., and we would always enjoy those stories over a can of Coke and 2 cookies. This continued for years until my best friend moved away from the complex. A few years passed and she came to visit. Her grandmother was still living in the complex and we decided one day while visiting to see if Mr. Doug was still around. We walked to the park in front of his apartment where we used to play and we saw that his porch was decorated the exact same it always had been. Same flowers, chairs, outdoor furniture. Excitedly, we knock on the door and a middle-aged woman answered. I had never seen her before and Mr. Doug had never mentioned having children, but figured maybe she was a caretaker because at this point Mr. Doug would have been very, very old. I could see the giant ship painting behind her, the brown couch, and the boxes of cookies and sodas he kept at the side of the kitchen. His apartment was the exact same, almost as if after all these years it was never touched. My best friend asked if Mr. Doug was home and that we were so excited to see him after all these years. The woman had the most concerned look on her face and said, "Who?" We told her that we would talk to Mr. Doug on the porch as kids and we were so excited that he was still in the same apartment. The woman just looked at us very confused and told us that she had been living in the apartment for years and a Doug had never lived there. What? It was clearly his apartment and had never changed. We had never seen this woman before ever and had spent many days in the summer at Mr. Doug's. We were so confused that my best friend even went to the front office and asked about Mr. Doug in apartment whatever the number was and asked if he had passed. They confirmed there was no record of a Doug living there and said we must have had the wrong apartment number. So how is it that this woman lived in the apartment even when my best friend lived there but we never saw her? And how is it that Mr. Doug, a man we spent many days with and grew to admire, a man the entire complex of kids and our parents knew never existed?